Thank you, Chuck. So as Chuck said, we're going to talk today about return on marketing investment and the calculators that you can use to determine your return on marketing investment. A lot of people measure ROI, and even marketing departments measure ROI, but there's a simpler method for understanding whether or not you're making money off your marketing campaigns. And so as Wikipedia says, the best part about ROMI is in its simplicity. So ROMI is the measurement of the revenue per dollar spent for each marketing dollar. I don't know why my slides keep jumping around, but so revenue per dollar spent for each marketing activity. So if you spend $10 to market a product and you make 20, that's your marketing ROI. A lot of people define marketing, a lot of people define marketing as the spenders and sales as the earners. And if you take that stance, and even people I know in marketing have that stance, but if you take that stance, you'll end up at odds with your sales department. Your sales department tends to feel a little bristled by the fact that they're out there earning money and then you go on to spend it. But if you start measuring your ROMI, what you can show sales is, yes, we spent this money, but these are the leads that we delivered, and we did them based on your qualifications. And that'll bring you together better on the topic. We call this approach bottom-up marketing, and we did another presentation on specifically targeting how bottom-up marketing works, and I invite you to go get that slide deck. It's available on our SlideShare account, and it's really good about bringing sales and marketing together. So the closers, which is sales or CSLs, or sometimes it's lead qualifiers, are in a better position than sales are, or than marketing are, to recognize specific customer needs. They're out there, they're on the front line, they're discussing customer needs, and so they know what the customer needs and they know whether or not the company can meet those needs. If you talk with sales on this topic, they can help you to craft your marketing strategy in order to get them to that position. So bottom-up marketing is talking with sales about the closing and developing your campaign from that point upward. Closers believe that marketing typically sends them leads that have not been properly qualified. So if you involve your sales team in that discussion, then that sort of dispels the issue. And so again, if closers involved, they're much more likely to provide the type of follow-up they know from their experience will close the sale. They may not have experience in closing sales for the types of qualifications that you determine. So involve them in deciding what is the determination for a qualified lead. ROMI calculators will help you and the sales team better understand the marketing and lead qualification processes. So not just at the point where they become qualified, but also the marketing that got them to be qualified. It'll also help you to develop a more targeted campaign that is creating that type of qualified lead. So we're going to jump out of PowerPoint for a second here and go to an online ROMI calculator. And this is available for everyone on Spider Trainer's website. It's in our resources, online resources area. And it's a very simple calculator. There's instructions above and below it for how to use it, so don't feel like you have to remember everything right now. The best way to figure out your ROMI and to use it as meaningful data going forward is take a look at what you've done in the past. Now, you might want to look at just one campaign, although what I really recommend is that you take 4 or 5 campaigns and you plug the numbers in here and come up with an aggregate or an average for each of these percentages. So working in this calculator from the top down, we're going to talk about first, how many direct mails or emails did you send? Or maybe this is how many badges did you scan, or how many partner leads were sent over. So let's say that we have a number, we'll pick 20,000. So we have 20,000 prospects. We have no real information about them, although if we borrowed the list or we've called the list, we know that maybe they're our clients or they've presented some sort of interest in the past. But we have 20,000 of them, and these are prospects. So we're going to send out a campaign, and it has a form in it where they can fill out the form and get additional information, or perhaps they download a demo or they get an ebook, whatever the call to action is. how many of those forms were submitted? Well, 500 is a pretty big number, so let's say that we got 87 forms. This number, this percentage here, is our prospect to leads conversion rate, and it's 0.43%. And so pay special attention to all the numbers in the gray, because we're going to use those again in a minute, and we're going to use it for predictions. Now, of the form submitters, how many were qualified leads? And this is where that conversation with sales can start, although if you're doing bottom-up marketing, it probably started before this point. But talk to sales and say, sales, we sent you the leads from that last campaign. Of those, how many did you feel like were qualified? And sales says, well, Cindy, you didn't do too badly. We felt like 60 of those were qualified. So this percentage now represents our lead to qualified leads. So how many were leads and then they became qualified leads? Sales says it was 68.97%. Okay, so of the qualified lead sales, how many turned in to be a real opportunity where you saw that this customer or this lead had the potential to represent revenue for our company? And they said, well, it was okay. It was about half. Well, we'll make it not quite exactly half. It was about half. So 53% of those represented an opportunity for revenue for this company. And then you say, okay, sales, well, how many actually went on to become a customer? And they say, oh, well, we did again, around half, 18% or 18 of those became a customer. So that's not bad. Those are all pretty good numbers. So we think that there's maybe an opportunity to improve them, but those are pretty good numbers. So then you say, well, sales, how much did the average customer spend? Or perhaps you have this information from your revenue department, or maybe you just know it. Maybe you're B2C and you know that your product costs $99. But let's say this is enterprise sales. And so our product is $15,785, the average spend. So this is our revenue attributable to marketing. It's $284,130. But we're not done. We have to figure in our campaign costs. So let's say that our campaign cost is $22,100 to build. And that's because we needed web pages and a microsite, and we needed several emails, or maybe we were at a trade show and we needed a booth. So our campaign costs were a little bit high. They were $22,000. So our simple return on marketing investment, our ROMI, was $1,185.66%. In other words, we made $11.86 for each dollar we spent. So our average customer spend was $15,785. We saw that up there. Our campaign cost was $22,100. We saw that there. Our gross revenue in this case is $284,130, and our MROI is 1,186%. So this is our simple ROMI, and now this arms us with some information to take to follow-up meetings. But how do we use this information in future campaigns? So jumping back to PowerPoint for just a moment, we're going to do another demo. Let's use what we've just learned in order to make projections based upon our past performance. So this time we'll go back to our calculator. I'm going to move my window over here just a little bit. Oops, too much. To right there. And I'm also going to open up Excel. These are the extended version of the MRI calculators. And we did find a bug in it when we were preparing today for the show. So if you're registered, we will send you the link to the new calculators with some changes to it. So what I want to do is, based on the information that I just learned over here, I want to figure out how many leads would I have to meet a revenue goal. And so the first thing that we have to do is figure out what that revenue goal is. So we're still working with ROMI, return on marketing investment, but now we're using it for projections instead of analyzing past campaigns. So let's say that we want to earn, for this particular campaign, our revenue goal is $275,000. And we know how much the average customer is expected to spend because that was over here on our past campaign. So our projected or average customer spends, let me find that number, $15,785. So let's pop that in here, $15,785. And the customers that will make a purchase right now are 17, but let's take a look at our close rate. So find our close rate, and that's right here, close rate. It's 56.25. So we're going to pop that in here. Oops, 25. And then we need our qualified lead to opportunity conversion rate. So qualified lead to opportunity is 53.33. 53.33. Oops, need a decimal in there. And our lead to qualified lead conversion rate is 68.97. So we'll say 68.97. And finally, our prospect to lead conversion rate is 0.43. So we'll say 0.0043, and there we go. So what this now tells us in calculating leads, and that's just a tab right here in the Excel spreadsheets, is that if we have a revenue goal of $275,000 for this campaign, based upon our past campaign performances, we would need to start out with 19,582 leads, or somewhere in that ballpark. And again, maybe this is the number of badges that you need to scan for a trade show. So if you're preparing for a show, maybe it's a big event like D-Scoop, you now have a number that you need to accumulate in prospects and based on past performances in order to generate a certain amount of revenue. So ROMI has a lot of different ways that you can look at it, and all of the numbers are valuable for different types of campaigns. So in the first tab, we have a practice sheet, and that practice actually looks very much like what you have online. So let's go take a look at what we could do to improve this campaign or other campaigns. Well, one of the things that we found is that when we only had 5 forms completed, let's go back up here in this one, if we only had 5 forms completed, it really changes things throughout the campaign. So what we want to take a look at in our campaign, and this is why campaign analytics can become so important, is what happened? Where was the breakdown? We only had 5 forms submitted, so that's really not enough for us. So we want to start affecting numbers. If we look at the campaign and we look at that there were only 5 forms submitted, or that our leads to qualified leads conversion rate is very low, or any of these conversion rates are very low, it helps us to hone in on what exactly is the problem with our campaign. If we didn't have very many forms submitted, it could be anything up to the point of the form. Maybe our open rate was very low, and so the forms that were submitted were low because not enough people opened our email. In which case, perhaps it's our subject line, or perhaps it's our deliverability. We ended up in spam folders. If people were getting to our landing page for our form and not completing the form, perhaps our form is too long, or maybe there's an error in our form. Maybe it doesn't work in Chrome, or it doesn't work in Safari. So these numbers enable us to start looking at the problem areas. So let's go back to that. Let's say we're sending out 20,000 emails. We're going to increase this to 900 forms got submitted. And you can see that our prospect to leads conversion rate went up. But of the submitters, how many are qualified leads? So again, having that conversation with sales, we're going to give them 900, and they take a look at it and they say, wow, Cindy, that's really improved. 800 of them are now actually qualified leads, which can affect these other numbers as well, but let's leave those the same and just notice that our ROMI is now 215%. In other words, we're making $2.15 for each dollar spent. So again, let's just lower that number. When it's only 300, we're making 18 cents for each dollar spent, but when it's 900, we're making $2.54 for each dollar spent. So using these different calculators, you're able to have conversations with different parts of your business about how you can positively affect your campaign. But using just the general one on the website or the practice one here in the Excel spreadsheet, you get an overall view. Bottom up is the same sort of thing. We're simply working from the bottom up. How many prospects do we start out with? Well, we're going to start out with 20,000. Our prospect to lead conversion rate, well, we're going to do better on this one. We're going to make that 24%. And as we go up this, our numbers start changing. Our lead to qualification, our lead to qualified lead conversion rate, we're going to improve that as well. We'll make it 60%. We're going to increase this one as well. Or actually, let's lower this one a bit and lower this one a bit, or a lot. And you can see that our ROMI changes with each number. But these numbers are coming from your campaign performance. So email automation enables you to improve the campaign from start to finish, because one of the things it does is it creates a more efficient use of your resources. Now, instead of having a campaign expense that is on a single blast email, the campaign expense can be amortized across the various components of the campaign. So if you have 6 emails, you're now spreading that cost across 6. But just the way that creating campaigns works, it's not times 6 in order to create the campaign. The automation reduces overhead in other areas as well. It reduces overhead on your IT department. It reduces overhead on maybe data entry or other areas. It also enables easy A/B testing and multivariate testing, which enables you to create more emails and learn more as you go along. Using the A/B testing, say testing subject line A against subject line B, can increase your qualified lead conversion rate or other rates. It also provides you the analytics to show you immediately successes and failures. If you have a form that's broken, you can easily see this in your email automation. And lastly, it provides historical data for a year-to-year review or campaign-to-campaign review. So in this presentation, just using a little bit of your time, we defined ROMI and how you can use it and how it's important to both your marketing and your sales departments. We showed you how you can use either our online calculator or the calculators that we made in Excel. They're all completely free in order to measure your ROMI and understand how changes that you make to your campaign can affect your ROMI. You can also use the other calculators for projections. If you take a look at your historical performance in ROMI, you can then figure out, using that historical performance, what can it mean to a campaign that we're planning, and where do we want to make changes in our campaign to improve it. And then last, we talked about the importance of drip and nurture campaigns in an automated system in order to amortize overhead costs over a specific amount of time. So this is what Spider Trainers does. We design and deploy these automated campaigns, and we help you to understand your ROMI. Chuck is always available if you want to download these ROMI calculators and talk with Chuck about measuring your past campaigns and making predictions about campaigns. Chuck would be happy to walk you through how to do that.